Hey everybody, welcome to another deep dive. Are you ready to explore some spiritual seeking and political intrigue?
Oh, yeah, and conflicting narratives, too.
You know it. Today we're going deep into the world of Chris Butler and the Science of Identity Foundation.
That's FF for short.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And we've got a ton of sources, online forum posts, articles, firsthand accounts,
Some from devoted followers.
and others from people who left Ceph, and they've got some pretty wild stories.
It's like we're getting a backstage pass to this whole drama.
Right. So what's fascinating is we get to see both sides of the story here.
Yeah, we can look at this movement from all these different angles.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's start with the main character, Chris Butler.
Right.
He's been called a spiritual guru, a political mastermind, kind of an enigma.
Yeah, all the above.
So, where do we even begin with this guy?
Well, Butler's journey starts in the Hare Krishna movement,
Okay.
and eventually he founded Ceph, but his path's been pretty unconventional.
Unconventional how?
Well, he started as a sannyasi, and that means, renouncing worldly possessions, dedicating your life to spiritual pursuits.
Right.
But then he transitioned to a married Paramahamsa.
Hold on, a married Paramahamsa? I thought that was the highest level of sannyasi.
You think, right?
Ultimate spiritual liberation, detachment.
Exactly. And that's why it's such a big point of contention.
Even within Sif.
Oh, yeah, even within Sif. The idea of a married Paramahamsa raises eyebrows. It goes against, traditional interpretations of what a renunciate should be,
So it makes you question Butler's commitment to those practices.
and whether he's actually maintaining his sannyasa status.
So right away, we have a leader who's kind of bending the rules of his own tradition.
Yeah, and that sets the stage for some of the controversies surrounding him.
But maybe he's just redefining what it means to be a spiritual leader today, right?
That's one way to look at it.
Right.
But the concerns about Butler go beyond just his approach to sannyasa.
Okay.
A lot of former members have accused him of creating this culture of fear, using manipulation to control his followers.
Really?
Yeah, they describe his leadership style as psychological terror.
Psychological terror. Wow, okay, you're not holding back.
I mean, it's a pretty serious accusation, right?
Yeah. Can you give us some examples of what these former members are alleging?
Well, there are lots of accounts of Butler using fear and guilt to keep people in line.
Like what specifically?
One story that stands out is how he recommended aviomarin to followers who were scared of him.
Wait, avumarin, the motion sickness medication.
Yep.
Seriously?
Seriously, it's almost like he was acknowledging their fear, but dismissing it in this really casual way.
Oh, you're scared of me. Just pop some avumarin.
Right. It just raises questions about his empathy and how he dealt with people's concerns.
That is strange. So we have this unconventional leader with a controversial style.
Right.
But what about the organization itself?
Okay.
What is the Science of Identity Foundation? How does it even work?
Well, SIF is pretty unique in its structure.
How so?
It's incredibly decentralized. It operates under all these different names and organizations. Yeah, so it's hard to pin down exactly what it is or what it does.
So it's not like one big organization. It's more like a network.
Right, like a network of interconnected groups.
Okay, but all leading back to Butler.
Exactly. He's still the central authority.
So why would they structure themselves that way?
Good question. That decentralized structure could be about control and obfuscation.
Obfuscation, meaning what?
By operating under all these different names, SIF makes it harder to track their activities and finances.
Oh, I see. Like they're trying to blend in.
Exactly. And that lack of transparency raises concerns about their true motives.
It makes it harder to understand what's really going on.
It's like trying to solve a puzzle with missing pieces.
So what are some of these groups operating under the SIF umbrella?
Well, you've got groups like Mantra.pl and the School of Meditation and Self-Realization,
Okay.
and they often use yoga and meditation as their initial point of engagement.
So they're using those things to attract people.
Right, like a gateway to their teachings.
But what happens once people get involved?
That's where things get a little murky.
Murky how?
The accounts from former devotees start to paint a more concerning picture.
Okay.
But before we get into that, there's one more interesting detail about SIF's structure.
What's that?
One source mentioned how hard it was to find Butler's contact information.
Really? Even though he's their guru?
Yep. Isn't that strange?
That is odd. You'd think he'd be somewhat accessible.
Right.
While the secrecy.
It makes you wonder, is it about privacy or is there something more calculated going on?
It's just another mystery surrounding Butler and Sif.
Right.
Okay, so we've got a controversial leader, a decentralized and secretive organization,
Right.
and now we're hearing whispers of darker allegations.
Uh-huh.
I'm sensing a pattern here.
Yeah.
But let's talk about the elephant in the room, money.
Okay.
There are all these rumors about SIF and financial impropriety.
Yeah.
What's the truth behind those allegations?
Well, let's just say the financial dealings of SIF are about as clear as mud. There are accusations of everything from questionable property sales with missing proceeds
Okay.
to claims that Butler received money from a disciple who was involved in drug trafficking.
Hold on. Drug money.
That's the accusation.
Are we talking about a spiritual leader potentially benefiting from illegal activities?
It's a serious accusation,
Yeah.
and it raises questions about the ethical standards within SIF.
And then there are the allegations of exploitation of devotees' labor on Butler's properties in Hawaii.
Right, with claims that followers were pressured to work without proper compensation.
So we've got potential financial shadiness, maybe even forced labor.
And yet Butler and his inner circle are rumored to live quite lavishly.
And what do the devotees say about all of this?
Well, some sources describe a stark contrast between the lifestyle of Butler and his inner circle and the financial struggles of many followers,
It's like a classic tale of the haves and the have-nots.
but in a spiritual context.
Right, which raises some serious ethical questions.
Yeah.
Okay, we've covered a lot of ground, but I have a feeling this is just the tip of the iceberg.
Oh, yeah.
But before we go any further,
Yeah.
you mentioned earlier that Butler has an apparent interest in the CIA and U.S. intelligence.
Right.
How does a spiritual guru even get interested in that world?
It's an unexpected connection.
It is.
And it leads us into the next chapter of our deep dive, the political dimension of SIF.
Oh, okay.
Butler's fascination with intelligence agencies is just one piece of a much larger puzzle.
A puzzle involving what?
Political maneuvering, hidden agendas, even
Oh.
ties to some pretty prominent political figures.
Now you're talking my language. Political intrigue, hidden agendas. This is getting good. Tell me more.
Well, to understand the political side of SIF, we need to introduce another key player, Tulsi Gabbard.
Oh, okay.
She's a former congresswoman, presidential candidate, and she's openly a follower of Butler.
Hold on. We gotta pause right there. This cliffhanger is killing me. We'll have to save the Tulsi Gabbard revelation for the next part of our deep dive. Don't worry, listeners. We'll be back soon to unravel the political mysteries of SIF and explore how this seemingly spiritual organization might be wielding influence in the world of politics. Stay tuned.
Can't wait.
Okay, deep divers, are you ready to jump back in? Last time we left off with Tulsi Gabbard.
Right. The former congresswoman and presidential candidate.
And she's a follower of Chris Butler.
Uh-huh.
That connection opens up a whole new can of worms.
It does.
It makes you wonder, how does a spiritual guru and his organization get mixed up in politics?
It's a great question.
Gabbard's involvement adds a whole other layer of complexity.
Yeah, on one hand, she's aligned with progressive causes,
Right.
but on the other hand, she's a disciple of Butler with all those accusations we talked about.
It seems like a total contradiction.
It does.
So how do we reconcile those two sides of Gabbard? Is she unaware of the darker stuff, or is there something more strategic going on?
Well, there are accusations that SIF is actively involved in politics.
Like how?
Working behind the scenes to influence policy, maybe even placing devotees in powerful positions.
So you're saying people with allegiance to Butler could be making decisions that affect all of us?
Potentially, yeah.
This idea of SIF infiltrating government agencies sounds like a conspiracy theory,
I know, right?
but some sources claim it's a real concern.
It is a serious concern.
Why would SIF even be interested in politics?
Well, remember Butler's interest in U.S. intelligence.
Yeah.
Some sources allege SIF is trying to put one of their own in a high-ranking intelligence position.
Wow.
It's a serious concern about conflicts of interest and undue influence.
Are there any examples or evidence to support that, or is it all speculation?
It's hard to find concrete proof.
Yeah, bet.
These operations would be pretty covert.
Right.
But several sources, including ex-members, have expressed concern about SIF's political ambitions.
Okay, so we got to take those claims with a grain of salt.
For sure.
But it's something to keep in mind as we explore these connections between the SIF and politics.
Definitely.
Let's get back to Gabbard. Okay.
If she knows about these potential political maneuverings, why would she downplay her connection to SIF during campaigns?
Yeah, it's a puzzling contradiction.
On one hand, she distances herself from SIF when it's convenient,
Right.
but on the other hand, there are reports of financial ties between her and right-wing groups.
Which muddies the water even more.
Wait, right-wing organizations? I thought she was supposed to be a progressive. How does that even fit?
That's a tangled web.
It is.
It's like trying to untangle a knotted ball of yarn.
Every time we pull on one thread, it just gets more tangled.
Exactly.
So where do we go from here? How do we make sense of all these connections, accusations, and ideologies?
It's a lot to process.
It is.
It highlights the importance of critical
Looking
thinking.
beyond the surface.
Right, we can't just accept what we hear at face value.
Whether it's from devotees or ex-devotees or politicians.
We gotta weigh the evidence, consider all sides, and come to our own conclusions.
You're right. It's easy to get caught up in the sensationalism, but we need to stay objective.
Definitely.
So with all this swirling around, what's the most important takeaway for our listeners?
I think this whole case study raises questions about power and faith and how easily they can be manipulated.
Right. We've seen how a charismatic leader can gain a following and how that power can be used for more than just spirituality.
Yeah, and it makes you think about the dangers of blind faith.
Surrendering your critical thinking to someone who claims to have all the answers.
It's a pattern we see throughout history, not just in religion, but politics and social groups too.
It's a reminder to always be questioning.
To seek out different perspectives and think for ourselves.
Because when we stop thinking critically, we become vulnerable to manipulation.
From anyone, whether it's a spiritual leader, a politician, anyone who wants to control our beliefs.
Okay, I'm starting to see the bigger picture. This isn't just about one guru.
No.
It's about the dynamics of power and influence that can happen in any group where people want guidance or belonging.
Exactly. And it's about recognizing the signs of manipulation and exploitation.
Financial, emotional, psychological.
We all need to be aware of these things so we can protect ourselves and others.
All right, deep divers, we've explored Chris Butler, the structure of SIF, the accusations of financial stuff and manipulation.
And the connections to politics.
And Tulsi Gabbard's role in all of this.
It's been a wild ride.
My head is spinning. But before we get totally lost, let's take a step back.
Yeah.
We've heard from both sides.
Right.
Devotees who praise Butler as a genuine spiritual guide,
Yeah.
and former members who allege manipulation.
How do we reconcile those conflicting narratives?
What does it all mean for people seeking spiritual guidance and meaning in their lives?
Stay tuned as we continue our deep dive into the heart of this story.
Okay, so welcome back, everybody. It's been a wild ride through the world of Chris Butler and SIF.
It really has. We've uncovered some disturbing stuff, but there are also these conflicting narratives.
Yeah, and that's what I want to unpack in this final part. How do we make sense of the devotion of some SIF followers alongside those allegations of manipulation? Can both be true?
That's a really important question.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of devotees talk about profound personal transformations through SIF's teachings.
They see Butler as a genuine guru.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They credit him with guiding them towards a more fulfilling life, a deeper connection with the divine.
And their experiences are valid, right? We can't dismiss that just because others had negative experiences.
Absolutely. Human belief is complex. It's tied to our needs and desires for belonging, purpose, meaning, connection.
And maybe SIF provides those things for some people.
In a way that they haven't found elsewhere.
So it's possible that the good outweighs the bad for them.
It's possible. They might focus on the benefits and ignore the red flags.
Like confirmation bias.
Yeah, but on a spiritual level, when you're invested in a belief system, you filter out anything that challenges it.
And the structure of SIF reinforces that.
Right. The decentralization, the lack of transparency, it all makes it harder to get a clear picture.
So devotees stay in this bubble, shielded from dissenting voices.
Exactly.
And that's where manipulation becomes dangerous.
When you're isolated, your whole worldview is shaped by one person.
And you become vulnerable.
You depend on that person for your sense of reality, your understanding of right and wrong.
Even your own identity.
It's a powerful form of control.
So maybe the devotees aren't even aware of the manipulation.
It's possible. Manipulation often works below conscious awareness.
It's like they think they're making their own choices, but they're being guided.
Subtly guided by Butler and SIF.
This is unsettling. It makes you question everything about spirituality.
It's important to question. Not every charismatic leader is manipulative. But we need to know the warning signs. Trust our gut.
So what's the big lesson here? What can people take away from this deep dive to help them on their own spiritual journeys?
Be discerning. Don't blindly accept what you're told, even if it's from someone you respect.
Question authority.
Seek out different perspectives. Trust your own intuition.
Because ultimately, we're responsible for our own spiritual growth.
We can't give that responsibility away to anyone else, no matter how enlightened they seem.
And it's okay to be skeptical, to ask tough questions, Demand transparency from anyone offering spiritual guidance.
True spirituality should empower you, not control you.
That's such an important message. We can get caught up in promises of easy answers, but the path to enlightenment is complex.
It's a journey, not a destination. There will be challenges.
But we can learn to navigate them and become stronger, wiser, more authentic.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Well, that's our deep dive into the world of Chris Butler and Sif. It's been a fascinating journey.
And a thought-provoking one.
We hope you learned something and that it gives you food for thought as you continue your own exploration of spirituality.
Keep questioning, keep seeking, and keep diving deep.
And thanks for joining us.